Welcome back. My name is Matt Reiners, and I'm the co-founder of Eversound, a company dedicated to improving quality of life for older adults by giving them the gift of hearing. Today, I'm joined by Sarah Pedretti, Life Enrichment Coordinator at Bluffview Memory Care. Sarah has been an Eversound partner for a bit and graciously raises her hand to help support other Eversound partner communities. So thank you, Sarah. But I had the opportunity to meet Sarah and really get to know her recently at the National Association of Activities Professionals Conference, and have to say that her energy and her vibes are some of the most positive I've come across during my time in senior living. So thanks for joining me today, Sarah.
Thanks so much for having me, Matt. I'm really excited to be here.
Amazing. So Sarah, what's your background in and what has really driven you to help older adults, especially those living with dementia?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story as to how I got here. I didn't have any personal experience with dementia at all, which is usually how people get into working with dementia, because they have a grandparent or whatever it is, and they say, oh, I want to be there to help people who are struggling with this. Well, in my case, that was a little different. It was actually very much a God thing, where I was going to university for English literature, and had to transfer universities. And when I transferred, I also decided that I was going to switch majors. And mother always knows best, right? And so it was actually my mom who introduced me to this amazing field called therapeutic recreation. And so I went in, and I was lucky enough to attend the University of Wisconsin-La Crosse, which is one of the top in the nation for therapeutic recreation, which is pretty awesome. But when it comes to dementia, throughout my whole time at the university, I definitely thought I was going to be working with youth, like youth at risk, something along those lines, maybe people with cognitive disabilities, whatever it might be, until I had to get some volunteer hours. And one of the only places I was able to volunteer was at a care facility that was specifically for dementia. And so that was my very first experience with dementia. And it was a very short time. But after that, I figured that to get the rest of my volunteer hours, maybe I could, instead of volunteering, actually work someplace and make a little money. So I was just looking in the random ads in the paper and came across Bluffview Memory Care. And they had an open position for an assistant. And I applied and miraculously got it. And that was really my first deep dive into working with people who have dementia. And honestly, I instantly fell in love with them. I absolutely love working with our residents here.
I love it. And to your point, yes, mother always does know best.
Right.
It's such a cool story of how you kind of just came across it and just, sounds like you found your passion, which is, that's what we're all striving for. Right.
Oh, definitely.
And so Sarah, being the life enrichment coordinator, how do you think about creating innovative activities with those living with dementia?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this is one of those things that all activity professionals are always trying to figure out, right? One of my favorite things to do is honestly just look around at things that either I personally am interested in, or even seeing things that other people are interested in and figuring out whether or not it's something that I could get my residents to do. So I think I told you this at the beginning. If not, my first major was English literature. So I actually did double major in that. And so I love reading. I love writing. That's also one of my passions. And honestly, recently, me and my residents, we just finished a short story, which is absolutely epic. I want to get this published. It is so good. And it was all the residents. But that was one of the random things that I wanted to try with them. And surprisingly, it worked out so well. They are just amazing at it. So little things like that, or knowing what some of the residents' interests are. So a lot of our residents are farmers, and I continually try and figure out ways to get them involved, whether it's through like our gardening programs where we get them outside, we get their hands dirty in the dirt, planting, or even bringing in animals. We brought in a donkey once and had it in our inner courtyard of our facility. So it actually had to walk through the building to get there. But the residents absolutely loved seeing the donkey out there. So little things like that. But also, one of the things I just love about being an activity professional is that we all enjoy sharing with each other, right? So it doesn't matter if you're quote unquote stealing from somebody else, like everyone's always excited to have you try what they've already tried and had success with. And so honestly, a lot of my ideas come from other activity professionals. I see what they're doing or they share with me, and I'm more than happy to give it a try. And usually it's pretty awesome programming ideas.
I love it. And it's never stealing. It's just being inspired, right? And kind of putting your own little spin on it. And once you do publish that short story, I would love to read it. So that sounds awesome.
Yes.
And one of the things, Sarah, at the recent NAP conference, you mentioned to my colleague that you've become a bit of a yes person, especially within your career. And like, I'm curious, what's caused this shift to put yourself out there more?
Yeah, that's a great question. And just so people know, sometimes being a yes person has a bad connotation to it, but I think you're meaning the good connotation.
Always the good. Yeah, I'm a yes man myself. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'm single in my early 30s, which I'm sure in like a lot of the big communities, that's pretty normal. Here in my small community, that's not as normal. But because of that, I've had just so much more time on my hands to really be able to commit to myself. So personal growth and everything. So being able to learn a lot from other people and just what makes me. And one of those things is I love trying new things, but a lot of times, and I'm sure this goes for a lot of people, we try to talk ourselves out of things because either like it might look weird to other people, or nobody's going to expect that from you, or just a whole lot of random things that we say to ourselves to unconvince ourselves to do something, right? And I realized that I feel more alive when I'm able to just say yes and go out there and do things that present themselves in front of me. And I like to see them just as open doors. And if a door opens, why not give it a try and go through it and see what comes out of it. And it has really been life-changing. It brings, like I said, so much more life to me, and I have more energy from it. And I have been able to go places that I never would have expected myself to ever walk into. And it has just been absolutely amazing.
I love it. I think, being a yes person gives us more opportunities to step outside of our comfort zone. And I think that's where the most growing and just like the best experiences really come from, because it's like that idea of not knowing what's going to happen, which just makes it that more exciting. Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm curious if you've seen any benefits from, promoting yourself more, or just getting out there more, or even within your own department and getting it out there more.
Yeah. I mean, when you put yourself out there more, you just have a lot more, honestly, you get a larger community of support around you, because you're just going to meet so many more people in your life. And so you're going to have so much more networking available to you. And that's just always going to be a benefit for you, whether it's personally or in your career. And also, I think it gives you more confidence when you do become a yes person, because like you said, you grow a lot more in those situations where you maybe don't feel comfortable. You're stepping out of your box, right? And going places that maybe you never thought possible for yourself. And so it definitely brings a lot more confidence to you. And when you do have that confidence, you automatically feel more able and capable of promoting yourself in your department to whoever it is that you need to promote yourself to. So whether that's to your administrator or to some other organization who you're trying to get to help you with like fundraising or whatever else it might be. So yeah.
I love it. And it's a perfect segue because I know on the panel that I hosted at the NAP conference, you mentioned a bit about like your department was facing, in terms of cuts and how we were able to present to your leadership what your department really needed in order to be successful, where I think, I do see some people struggling with that. So I'm curious, how did you go about that?
So that was it was a few years ago, and I was able to convince my administrator at the time to not cut my staffing hours. And I did a lot of math, which I think I told you in that panel that I'm not necessarily a math person, but I committed and I was going to figure it out, showing that I would rather have my budget cut than lose my assistants, my staff, because it's much more important to me to have that face-to-face interaction with the residents over supplies, because we can always get donated supplies or whatever. And so I did that. And I actually, I had a nice little presentation for them and everything, all prepared. And because I was willing to just take that step and argue for it, they actually let me keep my hours and they didn't cut my budget at all. So I got both worlds. It was amazing. And through that, I, again, feel more confident every time that I do fight for my residents in whatever way it is, whether it's keeping my staff or keeping the budget or requesting a big expense, for whatever it might be. We all have different things that we need expenses for. I feel more confident now that I did take that first step. And I was lucky because I did have a great administrator who saw the benefit from me arguing for my staff. But I feel even if people don't have that benefit of having a supportive administrator, that it's still going to increase their confidence when they step out that first time and feel more confident the next time.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, again, we talk about stepping outside of our comfort zone and really doing that. And, you mentioned that math really isn't your strong suit. And I would say English and writing is not mine. So it's just really cool to see how you stepped out. And I think, there's definitely a lot to learn there for some of our listeners that, might be struggling with some of those budgetary things, but going and presenting it and kind of framing it in a way that makes sense to that. But, also it might even help with that supportive that you're getting from that administrator or that executive director. So kudos for you for really going above and beyond and doing that.
Yeah. Because even if the administrator decides to decline your request, they're still going to start seeing you in a different light, because they're going to start seeing, oh, this person is willing to step up for what they believe in. And no matter what, that's going to be beneficial for you.
Yep. And even if you don't go and do that, right, the answer is still no. So you might as well go and try and fight and make it happen.
Exactly.
And Sarah, so my last question here, if you could give 3 guiding principles or words of advice to other life enrichment coordinators or senior living in general, what would you say?
Honestly, one of the things that I am very strong on promoting, being a therapeutic recreation specialist, we talk a lot about leisure and recreation, right? That's our job. And a lot of times we think of it only for the people that we're helping. But one of the things that I always really encourage people in this field is you have to take that time for yourself too. Activity professionals are people who often give more of themselves than what they get back. And that's a beautiful thing, absolutely beautiful thing. But we also need to remember that if we aren't willing to give ourselves that time, we're not going to be able to give the residents everything that we want to give them, right? So the more time that you take for yourself, the more time that you get to go out and enjoy the things that you enjoy, not only are you going to have more energy to give to the residents, but you're also going to be able to come up with more activity ideas too, because I do that all the time. Like I was saying, I take from my own life a lot of times. And so that's always a great thing. So that would be one that I would say. Another one is, I think sometimes people focus a little too much on what the residents need, right? So maybe they need certain nursing services or ADLs, or even for activity professionals, we just think, oh, I need to be super innovative on all the activity programs. Well, one thing that we also forget is that our residents are people. So they literally just need to have time face-to-face with you. You need to ask them what they personally want, and go build off of that from there. That's also another random little thing that I would encourage people to remember and just keep in the back of your head. I guess my third one would be maybe to encourage people to try to be a yes person, and just see where it takes them, and not saying yes to every little thing that comes along, because that's where that bad connotation comes from, right? You're not trying to be a people pleaser. You're trying to say yes to get yourself out of your box, right? So those things that maybe present themselves and you instantly think, oh, I can't do that, or I don't have enough, I'm not qualified enough for that, or whatever it might be. But if that door opens to at least really contemplate and think, hey, well, what if I did step into this role? Or what if I did go do this activity, whatever it might be, and at least take that chance once in a while.
I love it. Sarah, you are amazing. Your residents, I can tell, are in amazing hands with you. And I think you're just such a bright light in this industry. So I appreciate your energy. I appreciate your passion, and I appreciate your good vibe. So thank you so much for joining us today. And I know our listeners will get a lot out of this. So thank you again.
Yes, thank you for having me.